House of the Dead. Overkill. It's not just good, it's fucking delicious. Critics said it's fucking good. Other critics said it's motherfucking good. A streak on a prostitute said, I would suck that guy's dick. A toothless crack whore said, give me a chicken dinner. House of the Dead. Overkill. Fucked up genius. Catch 1, 2.
D's good enough for a name. Some holidays have passed by. President's Day. Said honor President's Day. Here's a montage of past presidents looking really pissed off. Now let's take a moment to contemplate on why they look so pissed off. Another thing that might piss someone off is Valentine's Day. Let's be frank here. I'll be frank here. I hate Valentine's Day. It's a day the opposite of Halloween. In that, on Halloween, everyone dresses up like monsters, but is generally kind to each other. With the exception of, the crazy, putting razor blades in kids' candy and shit. But everybody on Valentine's Day talks as if it's all goodwill towards a man and woman, but it's like the height of animosity. It wouldn't surprise me if March was like the days after Valentine's, or right around the time where people just commit the most suicide, where suicide counts just skyrocket. It's like, what best sums up Valentine's Day is probably The Room by Tommy Wiseau, which is coming out in 3D, by the way, so, or at least, so the internet is said, and why would the internet lie about anything? I guess I'm making this because I wanted to talk about the Sonic. Was one reason to not want to see Valentine's Day if it were a being, drink liquid nitrogen and essentially have its internal structural integrity of its organs just spill all over the floor while it was alive, or see Valentine's Day forced to breathe in mustard gas in front of its loved ones, or some other nonsense like that, you know? You probably guessed I don't like Valentine's Day. Just seems like a day of fake motherfuckers. But I went and I saw the Sonic-the-Hedgehog movie. And then I enjoyed it. I guess I'm just making this as kind of I feel like representative of kind of an old guard of Sega fans, so to speak. My time is pretty much past, if that makes any sense. But why I really wanted to talk about this, because what's compelled me to talk about it is there seems to be this seemingly excessively high praise. Now, don't misunderstand me. Was the movie good? Yes. I'm just very distrusting. That's really it. Just really distrusting. There's not much anyone's going to do to change that. Now, as for the reason for me being so untrusting towards people and their opinions, positive or negative, about Sonic the Hedgehog or Sega, you heard from the lyrics of the song Critics' Choice, right? That's House of the Dead Overkill. That's a Sega game. Published by it. Produced to prove. It's because people would just say negative shit about Sega regardless of what they made or didn't make or who it was made for. The movie, like Sonic Boom, is aimed more towards children. But there's also a counter-argument to that, in that the internal politics are clearly from the 2010s. As in, Sonic's character had to be redesigned because a self-assured hedgehog that was certain that he was cool or something like that, or at least had the confidence to project that to other people, is generally seen as a negative nowadays. Like, you have to have some kind of self-criticism factor. You have to put yourself down to a degree in order to have any credibility in the modern world. So, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Right now, I just kind of want to talk about Jim Carrey's performance. It was good. It was great. It was good to see him working and, you know, happy, doing his thing. And who else is really going to do it? You know, and this is like, it's kind of going to be one of those, what else could you do with the franchise type things. What was Sonic's motivation going to be outside of defending his friends? It was going to be defending his friends, and that's all it was going to be, because that's all he really could do with the characters. That's all he ever really did. Some might criticize Jim Carrey for not exactly fitting the physicality of the role of Dr. Robotic, but the incarnations have been pretty... they've been all around, they've been all over the map with Dr. Robotnik, so it's more or less if he got the emotional core and actually created something of his own and expanded it into something that is the likeness of that character, which is what he did, then it's okay. But now onto the reason for my distrust, just kind of like the internet in general. It's because I grew up with Sega, you know? And, I know that people sabotage 32X's. I know they took Dreamcasts off shelves so they couldn't be sold. Well, people, masses of people, kept issuing for demand, so Sega would create more consoles and that could not be sold, so that stores were essentially overstocked. Which is why Sega doesn't make consoles anymore, to my knowledge. Frankly, if it wasn't for some people at Squaresoft, Capcom, if it wasn't for Sega specifically, I would hate video games in this moment. I would despise video games. They're so political. If someone performs too well in this video game, we have to shut XYZ down. Is way too much for me if I'm just trying to have a reasonable amount of fun, you know what I mean? I don't find people trying to hack into my game of Devil May Cry to increase hit detection box sizes or make things unblockable or whatever the hell it is without my permission fun. I don't find that entertaining because someone needs to look cooler somewhere else on the internet. It's not enjoyable for me. So if Sega hadn't made that Genesis Mini, I probably wouldn't be playing video games right now. Frankly, I've got to go practice punching things or something. Gym, the bag, whatever. But I figured I'd just make this because it's kind of... I feel I should speak for that older, whatever the hell. I guess Sega fan or something like that. And we tend to be kind of a critical, angry group of people. You know, it's like if you had like a home team in the, I don't know, let's say the Super Bowl, and your team just constantly got fucked over by the ref or something. You're just like, oh well. It just makes it kind of like. So, taking a couple of steps back here, let's observe things like the Dreams Collection, like the Sonic Dreams Collection. The reason why the original character design for Sonic was essentially Sonic-the-Hedgehog. Basically, the producers only got the go-ahead based on the majority of people being into Sonic more about the Sonic, which, fine, you gotta be able to laugh at yourself to some degree. And I was just happy that Sonic had a movie at all, so, I mean, granted, things like the Dreams Collection out there, which is, people who are unaware of the Dreams Collection, it's a game in which that people claimed was retroactively released on the Dreamcast some years ago, in which it's pretty much like this weird fetishistic creep show of a video game that seems like many people were leveraged into making, and then they said the team from Bubsy made it, even though Sonic Team wouldn't have let anybody work on a Sonic game back in the days of the Dreamcast. But it's the game that ends with the screenshot or the video or whatever you want to call it, the real-time game footage of all the characters in the Sonic, basically the main character of the Sonic universe up to Sonic Adventure 2, burning on top of a building. And it says it takes a village. If you're unaware of that term, that phrase, it takes a village means it takes a group of people. It takes a massive amount of people. So when someone wants to come together to build a car, building, they can say it takes a village. What that's basically stating is it takes a village to burn these characters to the ground. So now I'm wondering, you know, where's all this, this positivity all of a sudden? It just kind of comes off like you're saying a bunch of positive shit so that you can essentially debase some kind of a fan base or whatever, then make yourself appear as if you were the more dedicated and become the majority, so to speak. Right? That's how it comes off. As in, right now we're at Force Awakens mode, and once we get to The Last Jedi, you're going to turn on Sega whatever it is they do and attempt to shut down whatever it is they're doing. Now, this Sonic movie, I enjoyed it, but I understand, while it is made with people like me in mind, it's not just for me. But I approach it as an older Sega fan, as kind of like the older, angrier brother to like Sammy. So when I saw the Sega Sammy Corporation there, I was happy. Point is, I'm just wondering where all this positivity comes from all of a sudden. That's all. I realize I'm not very trusting. Like, I understand that, and that's my nature. I'm not going to be very trusting to people who just suddenly decide that all of a sudden everything about Sonic is okay. There are some people that honestly believe XYZ. Now, the criticisms of the movie, you could say, well, it kind of measures the tropes of things relative to the 90s. Well, it kind of has to. We're in Force Awakens mode, to some degree. Even if it goes through, I mean, if it was truly complete 90s cliche, then there was a clear, really easy attempt at a gay panic joke. If it was the 90s, we'd have full gay panic. I mean, it'd be like Sonic's in a towel with a dude in the same room. Oh no. It was just like whatever, because it's modern in that sense. But it's a functional, solid movie. I mean, I'm not expecting, like, you know, Jean Cocteau's Orpheus out of a blue hedgehog that wants to run fast. I'd be mad for expecting it. But overall, the movie was enjoyable. It's really meant for a parent and their kids to see. It's who it's made for. That's fine. New generation of Sega fans with a completely different outlook than I'll have. Which is probably a good thing. One more positive. Well, to all this, well, if you were a Sega fan. So for anybody who's into 25-year-old, pointless, outdated arguments, well, Sega won one. And that is the argument of the quote-unquote bit wars. As far as its graphics are concerned, Vectorman is a vector-based character, not a raster-based character, which is what all the characters and all 16-bit stuff are. Now, if you want me to explain that, I'll try to explain it. You can just basically blow up something, shrink it down, variable size, and it doesn't pixelate. When it's vector. When it's raster, it's JPEG, you have a small image, you blow it up, it looks like crap. So by technicality, Sega technically won the bit wars, again, by technicality. Unless you can find, in the 90s, a Super Nintendo game character, a sprite that works off of vector graphics. But don't misunderstand me either. Like, there were some advantages to the Super Nintendo, and that is to say, memory space for role-playing games. Of course, Sega kind of made a kind of a joke, a sarcastic joke with this, which I would find later. And I haven't played it myself yet. Super Fantasy Zone. It's a parody of all the storylines of Super Nintendo games, and it just makes it into a shooter, a side-scrolling shooter. And it's just like Sega to do that. Just some black kind of sarcasm. I'd intended to make this into a more scripted thing, with just too many kind of emotions present right now. And so I feel it needs to be said kind of like this. So, if you honestly enjoy the Sega movie, the Sonic movie, by all means, great. But when it comes to the internet, I just get the impression that what you really want is to essentially debase a fan base, or to appear more of a, like, to pretty much gain a majority vote, so to speak, so that you can alter or attack Sega or Sonic or whatever at will. That's what I think when I look back at Star Wars and all these other things that were released. Movies that are not bad by any means, but somebody crosses a political line somewhere and then now the movies have to be shut down in their entirety. Now if someone wants to make 30 movies or whatever the hell it is, I don't particularly care. But it is kind of disconcerting when there are people just attacking the movies without any, regardless of what it is, seemingly to just be able to control someone else's freedom of speech or box them into some kind of creative hole, or back them into a corner, while appearing to be the base fan. But enough of this rant. Sonic movie, without going into too much details, is a functional, fun movie with a little bit of adult themes, some stuff from some Archie lore, for those people who really read the comics and all that other crap. But, yeah, sure, I could recommend it to anybody to go see it. It's not, I don't know, you're not looking at 2001: Space Odyssey. The blue hedgehog that wants to run fast. And some character beats that you've seen before, but what else could it have possibly have been? Anyways, this is D. Later.